Topic. Now I'm sure you all have memories with Hot Topic. See, in the early 2000s, Hot Topic was known as the most emo store. And some people still consider it emo, but I'm gonna tell you why it's currently not. And will it ever become emo again? My first memories of Hot Topic was me at 12 years old, not really into alternative music or really knowing anything about it, to be quite honest. And my family was, typical Christian family back then, not emo. I was a little blonde-haired Johnnie. The most edgy thing I really did was skateboard and watch Jackass. And I remember going into that store and the only band I really knew of was Panic! The Disco because of Pretty Odd and AFI. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna get an AFI shirt. And I saw a t-shirt and it was what I thought was AFI, but it happened to be Marilyn Manson. And I brought it home and then my sister was like, that's Marilyn Manson, ah! And then the only thing I ever heard about Marilyn Manson is that he's supposedly very edgy and also tried to suck his own wiener with his ribs removed. So I instantly returned it, and that's my story of going Hot Topic. I was like, holy shit, this place is scary, that guy's edgy, oh. Now I'm not really scared of having t-shirts like that or listening to artists like that, but as a 12-year-old little Christian boy that didn't really know anything about alternative music and hearing all this stuff about an artist, I was like, holy shit. Hell, just going into the store was scary. I mean, it looked like vampires lived in there. So in this video, I will be telling you the history of Hot Topic and where it is today, because this store meant a lot to my little emo black heart. And also, Hot Topic, why have I not modeled for you yet? I have the emo. Have you ever typed in emo guy hair? I still have it, but what the f? This probably won't help. The first Hot Topic store was opened in November of 1989 in Montclair, California. It was started by a person named Orv Madden. I've never heard of Orv Madden. It sounds like somebody that would be a part of the Madden video games. Very unfitting for what Hot Topic became. Football! 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 Cut my life into football! He was a former executive at the Children's Place. In the early 2000s, alternative music was thriving. I mean, we had bands all over TV. MTV was a thing that played music. Unfortunately, that is not really needed nowadays since we have YouTube and all these other apps that we can just look up any video we want to watch now. But back in the day, having MTV play music videos was such a big deal. I mean, that's the main reason why I found out about alternative music. I remember seeing 9 in the Afternoon by Panic! The Disco playing on MTV, and it really changed my life and made me fall in love with that band. We had shows like Silent Library, we had Cribs, we had all these shows where alternative bands would be featured. Hell, even some alternative bands even had their own TV shows, including Simple Plan and Cartel and all these other bands. Alternative bands were also featured in late night shows a lot. They would do performances like My Chem performing and all these artists. We would also see them at mainstream award shows. I remember Panic! The Disco with their first album won Best Music Video on, I think it was the MTV VMAs, which is crazy for an up and coming band, and also crazy that it was an alternative band winning anything at all. You don't see that much anymore. And not only that, but they also got to perform at that, and a lot of other artists got to perform as well. I mean, Fall Out Boy was massive, Paramore was like just starting to be really massive. All these bands were a big deal back then. And a lot of them are still a big deal, but not necessarily as alternative as they once were. Hot Topic saw all this success, and just like their name, they jumped to the Hot Topic. And that topic was alternative and rock music. Crazy to talk about that, like, oh, that was a thing that was super popular at one point, but it was the most popular thing at one point. Some people like to act like, oh my god, no, it was never known by people. They wouldn't get it. We're emo. No one knows these songs. Everyone fucking knew them. They were massive. I mean, the radio was always playing Hey There Delilah, and there was all these other songs that were playing. I mean, all of them were practically mainstream back then. And yes, there's different levels of alternative, okay? There's like the guy with eyeliner, then there's just the guy with the sad acoustic guitar, then there's the freaking rock music, then there's the punk rock, then there's the, it's all in the same world. So in the early 2000s, Hot Topic saw all this alternative music thriving. And what they did is they added band t-shirts, studded belts, fingerless gloves, alternative stuff in general, goth clothing, all of it. They even had the outside of the store look like it was for vampires from the Lost Boys or something. It was fucking horrifying, but also so fucking cool. I remember going into Hot Topic back in the day, and it was always so dark and gloomy, and they would just be playing alternative music, and it scared the shit out of me. But now I miss it so bad. It was a great place to get pants as well. I mean, the pants I'm wearing right now are from Hot Topic, and they're women jeans. I'm not gonna lie, okay, I need my skinny jeans, so I'm a tiny guy, I wear girl jeans sometimes, okay? Don't tell anyone though. Back in the day, Hot Topic used to do signings and meetups. So they would have bands like Black Veil Brides and Asking Alexandria doing signings and meeting all their fans. And it's such a cool idea. You would go to the mall, you'd go to one of your favorite stores most likely, and you'd meet your favorite bands. Another interesting fact is Hot Topic was very tapped in on YouTube. So back in the day, they had Fred, Dave Days, Shay Carl, Ray William Johnson. All these YouTubers had their own merch in Hot Topic. Not only that, but I found footage of Fred Figglehorn at Hot Topic doing a meetup. That's fucking legendary.
Hey Fred! I'm gonna do an in-store signing at a Hot Topic store!
Now I know their name is not actually Fred Figglehorn, it's Lucas Cruikshank, but still. Fred Figglehorn in my mind. And that's what was so great about Hot Topic. They were tapped in. And somehow the YouTube side of things really fit in with the alternative side. Unless if you ask Warped Tour when they had the Warped YouTubers on, a lot of those bands were not happy about that. But now all your favorite bands are probably doing some form of content, whether it's on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube, so things change. I think the reason why having YouTuber merch at Hot Topic and emo clothing and all this stuff actually fits so well is because it was something that everyone was into. Like me growing up, I would watch some of my favorite YouTubers, that being like Shane Dawson back in the day, and you know, D-Fizzy and all these people, and it really fit the alternative world, and a lot of those people were alternative in fact. Hell, even Fred Figglehorn had the swoopy hair. I guess YouTube and alternative music really fit together because back in the day it was something that you would do because you're lonely and it would bring you comfort. You would watch your favorite YouTuber talk about their day or make a funny skit, and with music as well and alternative music, you would hear an interview or you would listen to their music and it would bring you comfort. At least that's what it did for me. And look at how well that turned out. I'm 25 wearing a f***ing captain's hat. What's wrong with me? One of my favorite things that Hot Topic ever did, which is just a relic of the past that most people probably don't even remember, and I sadly never got to experience, was Hot Topic would have live performances from emo artists. And this is back when MySpace was thriving. They would have artists like Steven Jerzak and Blood on the Dance Blood on the Dance Floor. They did. They were thriving back then, I'm not gonna lie. They would have a lot of artists like that perform acoustic sets inside the store. And to me, that was always really cool, and I wish I got to experience that. Hell, I wish I got to do that. Hot Topic, if you want me to bring my acoustic guitar, I can do that. No? Cool, I'll just go f*** myself. I even remember performances from Never Shout Never performing at Mall of America. And those performances weren't set up by the store, but they were set up by Hot Topic. It was actually such a big show that they had their own stage set up in the mall, and people were just watching from the whole mall because that many people were there. And it was presented by Hot Topic, and then later on he did a signing inside of the Hot Topic store for all the people that were watching him. Hot Topic, you gotta do stuff like that again. We want it, I promise you, people would show up. I mean, emo's coming back, Hot Topic. You gotta capitalize on this, right? That's what you do. You're the Hot Topic, right? Another massive thing Hot Topic did that they don't do anymore was their interviews. Back in the day, interviews were a big thing. Because musicians and TV stars and all that, they didn't really just have access to their phone like they do now. So they weren't just making TikToks and random things and being like, hey, this is how my life's going. So back in the day, Hot Topic had interviews, and they were massive and they were so fun to watch. Hell, there was even that curly blonde head guy that used to do emo interviews that were pretty good, besides making people uncomfortable. Hot Topic started posting on YouTube about 12 years ago, and they would post interviews, and they also did a segment called Hot Minute. And if you don't know what a Hot Minute was, it was their interview style where they would interview bands for a minute and they would rapidly send them questions. So they would send them questions really quickly, like, what's your favorite holiday? What's your favorite thing to do on tour? What's your favorite food? What's your favorite sex position? Okay, chill, Johnny. This isn't a Brian Stars interview, okay? For me, I really loved watching the interviews because it really let me connect to the artist way more than I ever was able to. Music was fantastic and I really connected to that, but seeing the person, how they look and their mannerisms and what they're into was just really nice, and honestly kind of brought that YouTube style into music, which is something that I feel is really needed. Sadly though, it seems that Hot Topic's YouTube channel has become fairly inactive. Their last post was 1 month ago, and before that it was like 6 months ago. And they've only been posting a couple times a year. Usually if they post on YouTube, it's about, hey, we have anime t-shirts out now, or here's a Funko Pop, and look at this person wearing a Funko Pop tee. Who the f wants to wear a Funko Pop tee? Who? I don't want to go to Hot Topic and buy a Naruto shirt. I don't fucking want it. And I don't want a Jack Skellington t-shirt. Call me crazy because I know that's still emo, but I don't want that. I'm not 12. I'm just saying, Hot Topic. I miss the emo, okay? And I miss you interviewing bands. And maybe the budget's just not there anymore. I don't know. It's all about demand, and honestly, maybe we're to blame. Maybe they would still be doing it if people were still watching. So I guess that's kind of on us. So I remember in 2015, it seemed like Hot Topic was really changing. I mean, their whole store became more centered around Funko Pops, which are everywhere, and honestly, you've made too many. We're good. And a lot of it is also centered around anime and Disney. Those are the main things that Hot Topic nowadays promotes. Hell, I remember going to their stores and they have pop music artist t-shirts like Ariana Grande and rappers, and it's just like, oh, this is everything now. And maybe that's what Hot Topic was always supposed to be, is the Hot Topic, and that makes sense. And they gotta make a living, they gotta do what sells. And unfortunately, it seems like, at least at the time, emo music and alternative music was at a low. But recently, I've gone to Hot Topic in 2023, and it seems like they do have an alternative section. If you go in there, you can still find skinny jeans, you can find studded belts, you can find fingerless gloves, and you can find plenty of band tees. I don't know if yours has it, but mine has plenty of rock tees and alternative bands. I remember even going recently and I saw like this crazy Raw XD looking Bring Me the Horizon shirt. And then there's still, you know, Asking Alexandria, Fallen in Reverse, all these other type of bands that still have their merch in there. Even newer bands like Palais Royale and Water Parks have their merch in there. They still don't have any Johnnie Guilbert merch. What the f? But they do have plenty of alternative stuff still. So it does seem like Hot Topic still has their alternative roots. But unfortunately, it's just not where it used to be. Also, another big thing that Hot Topic had back in the day was CDs and vinyls. And I know they brought back their vinyls, but they don't have them like they used to. And that's understandable because people don't really buy CDs and vinyls anymore. And the people that do buy vinyls pretty much just buy it because they want the artwork, which is understandable. That's why I buy vinyls. They also used to have alternative press magazines at the store. I don't know if they still have those, but those were a big deal back in the day. I remember being a child and getting alternative press magazines, and I would just have my whole wall full of them. It would just be all my favorite bands on my wall. And now if I do that as a 25-year-old, I look like a weirdo. But back in the day, it was really cool. But that's not as much of a thing anymore, and I don't really see those in Hot Topic as much as I used to. I don't even know if they sell them anymore there. Another thing they have at the store that is still emo is plugs, earrings, and lip piercings. And I've also been seeing their jewelry, and they'll have the old Hot Topic logo on the jewelry, like that old like edgy vampire-y like blood red fucking logo. And that's pretty cool to see, so maybe that's a sign that they're going back to their roots a little bit. Trust me, it is marketable now, okay? People would buy that. People want to go to Hot Topic and see that old Raw XD stuff, I swear to God. At least 6 people want to see it, and I'm one of the 6. So in conclusion, Hot Topic is obviously not where it used to be, but I have to give them respect. They still have stores, which is impressive. In 2023 to have physical stores, that's not easy. Hot Topic has always been about being the hot topic, which I know I've been saying that word so much in this video, please forgive me. But if you listen to the name of the store, it is just about being on top of what's trendy. And unfortunately, emo music and alternative music has just not been the most trendy thing lately. If you look at it, Warped Tour died out and Alternative Press Magazine isn't really much of a thing anymore. And they don't even do the APMA awards anymore. I do have a feeling that alternative music and everything is on the rise again. We have festivals like When We Were Young and Sick New World and Emo Night. And all of those have really brought back the alternative vibe. And it seems to be doing pretty well. There's a lot of artists that are actually doing very well in implementing alternative styles into their music. And if you go on TikTok, a lot of the songs that are trendy are from the early 2000s. It almost feels like TikTok has revitalized the emo scene a little bit. As much as I hate TikTok, I respect it. And I have seen Hot Topic currently sponsor a new tour for Black Veil Brides and Bill Vallow, which is pretty cool. So it is good to see their name still attached to some alternative artists and sponsoring tours and being connected to the scene. But I understand, it's a business. And if they have to sell Funko Pops and anime t-shirts to stay in business, that's just how it's gotta be. But I really hope one day we get to see Hot Topic again how it used to be, with that giant vampire look to the store and all those alternative bands performing in the store again.